we were doing 7 years ago this weekend?
So I've got it on the calendar. 7 years ago was when we... Was that when we met?
Wasn't when we met.
Was it our first date?
It was our first date.
Our first proper date, not our first meeting up to go and see a film with...
No. We went out for a drink together around Tynemouth.
Yes. I don't think we went out for one drink.
We went out for significantly
more
more than one drink.
We went out for a lot of drinks. Yeah. Had some shots. Do you remember having shots? Do you remember shots?
Vaguely.
I remember shots.
I remember vaguely having them that night as well.
Oh, are you having a drink there?
I am, yeah. Just keeping myself topped up. Yeah.
Is that in memory of the date?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah? That was a great night out.
It was.
Yeah.
We flowed very well.
We did. There was well, I was about to say there was a lot of banter, but essentially there was no silence. Those are the days.
And then the next day I had to go to Chesterfield for a night
out. You
did,
I remember that because you were texting your mate the entire time, who I now know, but texting your mate all the time, like, he's going, oh, you'll not be there, you're not coming. And he's like, no, I'll be there. And I was like, you're never going to go to Chesterfield, but you did. Went
to see a football match.
Mm-hmm.
We left after 20 minutes and got really drunk again. Yeah.
A really successful weekend?
I was the most sober out of anyone. I think I think
you power through?
Yeah, built myself up. I had to actually direct Rich to the hotel and take him home the next night. So
that makes a change, doesn't it? Than other people taking you home.
Well, anyway, I've got you a little present.
Have you?
Yes. I know that we celebrate a more important anniversary now.
Oh, I feel bad now.
Well, this is partly in response to you buying me some nice beers a couple of weeks ago. So
fair enough. Okay, right.
So I've got you a nice little present.
Oh, because the Amazon man came today. So, listeners, I am now holding an Amazon package that feels suspiciously like, if you can hear that, it feels suspiciously like a DVD. Right, let's open it up.
This didn't come today, this came yesterday.
Oh, did it not? Yeah. Oh, right, because I thought you were looking out for Mr. Amazon.
Yeah, I was looking out for my new hard drive, but yeah.
But that's another story. Oh, wow. So, I do have a DVD, and it's a film that I didn't get to go and see because I think we're still in the realms of bringing Blake home and not being able to go to the pictures and things like that.
Yes.
But you absolutely raved about this film, and I have been able to stay spoiler free as well, which apparently is some sort of miracle because everyone wants to talk about it, and people seem to want to do funny voices as well. You do a funny voice, and I had to tell you to stop.
You might need to tell people what
I'm getting
thing
there. I'm building up anticipation. It's Knives Out.
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you got me the Blu-ray, the 4K Ultra HD.
I mean, we can't actually watch it in 4K, but we can watch the Blu-ray.
Can we not?
No, it's
we not have that?
It's for future-proof. It's
we
don't have a 4K TV. Yeah.
I don't even understand. Can we get one of those?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, let's get one of those. That's the next thing on the list.
I mean, this is quite a selfish present because I do want to watch it myself.
That's amazing. I'm really, really pleased because people have been talking about it a bit more now because it has come out, and I'm waving it about. You probably hear the DVD rattling in the thing. I'm going to put it down now. But yeah, I really wanted to see it because I don't want to be spoiled.
Yes.
Thank you, love. Thank you. That's very kind. What a surprise. It was on the floor the whole time. I was about to put it in the bin because I saw the packaging and I thought, oh God, he's left that thing on the floor. I'll put it in the recycling bin.
Yeah, so I hid it behind a table, which you've now moved to put your notes on for this. Chilling insight that we do actually have notes for this.
I know, I think we have to sometimes. Otherwise, we would just sit here going, right then, what are we doing? Although you are now looking around for something. Are you
for my notes,
Are you looking for your note? Oh, fair enough. Oh, thank you. That's lovely. And spoilers for upcoming episodes. We'll be watching Knives Out and reviewing it.
Well, I mean, you have been watching a lot of murder mysteries recently.
Yes.
I came down and you were watching Death on the Nile.
I want you to watch that at some point.
And I think at some point you were watching Father Brown, which is...
Yeah, maybe I've gone back. You know how I was talking about how I've gone into renovation shows?
Yeah.
I've also gone into murder mysteries. So maybe that's another level of
we moved house and you watch renovation shows. I don't really know what it says if you're watching murder mysteries.
And I'm watching murder mysteries. Anyway, I've got something that I'd like to say before we get into the whole watching television date night part of the podcast. So we're on episode 6 now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Don't think we ever thought we'd get to an episode 6.
I didn't think we'd get to episode 1. So
that's right. When I pressed the upload button on episode 1, that was interesting to watch your face. But when we started this podcast, we really didn't know where it was going to go, did we? We didn't even know what we were going to talk about, other than we had this vague sort of idea that we would talk about film, and then we sort of chucked telly in as well, because we were watching so much telly, with us not being able to go to the pictures for obvious reasons. And even the date night feature, which is now called date night but wasn't at the time, came to you just a few hours before we'd even press record for the first time. So for listeners who haven't been with us from episode 1, we've had a pretty tough year. I think that's safe to say. Our son Henry died when he was 6 days old, and his identical twin brother then spent 4 months in hospital in intensive care. So that's the sort of the brief summary version of what happened to us.
Yeah.
And we were really propelled into a world that we didn't even have a clue existed. And we existed, didn't we, from sort of day to day. Just buoyed by our wonderful family and friends who kept us going, and also the amazing staff at all the hospitals that we attended, because we didn't just attend one hospital, we attended 3. And we had conversations that no one ever dreams of having with each other. Really difficult conversations. But even when things were really, really bad, and we were sort of in a limbo land, very sadly waiting for the worst to happen, we ended up... Do you remember we were holed up in an old doctor's residence?
I remember it very well, yeah.
Because that's where they put parents who weren't able to stay on the ward, but needed to be near their children who were in intensive care.
Yeah.
And it took us a while to get one of these rooms.
Yes.
We were very, very lucky to get one. But it was a bit like going back to another era.
It was like Cub Camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Cub Camp when you go away and you're staying in like a hostel somewhere.
Yeah. And there's like a fridge in the room.
Yeah, a fridge that makes a noise all night.
It does that really weird tinny noise.
TV that can pick up 2 channels.
And it's like on the wall and is really small.
Yeah.
And was like something from the 80s.
I mean, it was amazing to have, because I don't think we'd have coped those first few weeks without. But yes. It was very going back in time to a different time, I think.
But even when we were there, we ended up watching, and this is in the midst of this incredibly difficult period of time, but we ended up watching repeat episodes of Bullseye. Was it on like Challenge TV?
Challenge TV in the middle of the afternoon.
And there were other shows as well. Did we watch like...
Play Your Cards Right, things like that, yeah.
So TV, as trivial as this sounds, became something that gave us some respite from that real relentless slog.
Absolutely.
It gave us something for our minds to just have a bit of a rest, and also for us to laugh again.
I think it was just like an hour where we could just ignore the fact that our phone could ring at any moment, and we could just escape into a world of Jim Bowen making decidedly offhand comments to contestants.
You know how I always have my Elaine's problematic corner?
Yeah.
Like the entirety of Bullseye is that,
the Jim Bowen Memorial's problematic corner.
Yeah, every time a lady's on. It's just but we laughed, didn't we? But then we'd also, I think it was an opportunity for us to talk about what was happening, but in a very light-hearted, often quite dark way as well.
Yeah.
You know, so really the story behind this podcast was that we wanted to do something for the 2 of us, particularly when we were in lockdown, because we've been in lockdown for such a long time. Because even when Blake came home, we weren't able to go and do the usual things that you do. This was something I think we would have liked to have listened to when we were in the hospital. Something that would be also a bit funny to share with our mates, who would inevitably think that we were a bit mad, which is probably true. And also, although we probably didn't know it at the time when we started recording these things, a space to talk about what had happened to us.
Yeah.
And I think as time has gone on, we've been able to share some insights into loss and grief, or at least our experience of having encountered loss in a multiple pregnancy.
Yes.
Which really isn't talked about. We found it very hard to find anyone who was speaking about that particular event.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, I in particular really craved something that resonated with me when we were in the hospital, and even now I look for podcasts and stories about our particular experience.
Yeah, I remember sitting on the sofa in the room, having just been left alone by the doctors to get our thoughts together, and picking up my phone and subscribing to Carrie Adloyd's Griefcast.
Yes.
Because I don't know why that was my first thing that I thought to do, but clearly we experience a lot of life through the podcasts we listen to, which sounds ludicrous now I'm saying it out loud.
No, it does. And I thought this, I was commenting on it, I'm on one of the bereavement groups, and I was thanking someone for sharing their story, because even though that story was horrific, it was a horrific story, it was so powerful and emotional and sad, but there was that commonality of experience, and it's that feeling that you are not alone, that there are other people out there who have had similar, not exactly the same, we've all got a different experience, but there's someone out there who knows a little bit, I'm waving my hands about a little bit about that experience and can speak to you. So in a sense, this very unwanted, very odd, very unexpected experience that we've had is kind of fed into this podcast more than I think we anticipated. It's kind of become what I wanted to hear when we were on the dodgy single bed in the room that looked like it was in The Shining.
Yes.
Back in the early days of the hospital. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and I know we've been speaking about this a lot this week, about how we address this particular issue. I think we won't always go into detail. We won't always talk about baby loss, for example, which can be a very triggering statement. Baby loss itself can be a very triggering statement for people to hear. We won't always talk about it, but if I've learned anything about the human experience of bereavement, it's to be open and upfront and honest, and not shy away from the fact that this is something that's really affected us.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants or needs us to be relating our experience to, oh yeah, we saw an episode of The Simpsons, and this is how we relate it to our life.
Yeah.
But there are going to be things where, well, there are going to be TV shows where our experience can give an outlook on this, and I think it's useful for us as much as it is for anyone listening to it. Probably more so, that we do put these things out into the world, and yeah.
And I'm mentioning it now in particular, we've got to episode 6, probably because we kind of know where we're at now, and I'm also conscious that we need to address this today, especially because I know you're going to talk about a TV show that you've been watching that is precisely about grief.
Yes.
So yeah. I think it would be remiss of us to just walk straight into that without giving this little chat, just having this chat with
Absolutely.
People who are listening, and also to say that, you know, we're conscious, having had that chat about trigger warnings a couple of episodes ago when I was talking about The Nest, that we need to be conscious that other people may not be in a position to listen to what we have to say, don't want to, or want to come back to it later on.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we've decided that we would put a little asterisk in the show notes next to... You're looking at me. Okay, Mark decided...
No. We're not going to put a French goal in there. An asterisk.
An asterisk?
No, he's the comic character. Asterisk.
Asterisk?
Yes.
I've never called it that. It's an asterisk.
He's not.
It is to me. How do you say it?
Asterisk.
Asterisk.
I'm now doubting myself.
It doesn't work right in my mouth. Asterisk. I've never called it an asterisk. Mark's now looking up how to spell what I call an asterisk. Mark, I give lectures to hundreds of people.
Well, this is why I'm...
to asterisks. I think I've written it. Oh no, you're gonna... Oh no.
The main difference between asterisk and asterisk is that asterisk is a typographical symbol or glyph, and asterix is a series of French comic books. That's the main difference.
Oh, the shame. The shame.
Do you feel we've undermined a lot of points through?
I'm 40 this year.
This is the first time this has happened as well. Ever. Because I do this all the time.
You never, like, you will tell me when I've got something wrong, which is probably once a week, knowing me, but never this. What a time for this to come up.
Never grammar or pronunciation.
What a time. I'm making a really, really, like, important emotional point about loss and grief.
Do you want to re-record this?
No, I think we'll just carry on. Anyway, I will now use the right term. And the reason I thought you were looking at me was because you had come up with the idea and I'm claiming it for both of our own.
I don't care about that. I'm more bothered about correcting you on my grammar, because you do it to me all the time. Like, what word did you just use?
So, we will put, let me get it right, an asterisk. Oh, it doesn't sound right. I might just go back to the French cartoon character next to the point in the show notes where we might be talking about something like this.
Yes.
So a little asterisk.
Asterisk.
I'm gonna have to start. A little symbol to say.
Star.
Yeah, like Prince.
Multiplication symbol.
We'll put a symbol next to. I shouldn't laugh when I'm talking about this. We'll put a symbol next to it just to give you the heads up. And we'll put a little note on our social as well for anyone who's maybe got to this point in the podcast and gone, move on, time to talk about telly.
Yeah.
Should we talk about telly?
Let's do that.
Watching television.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, this week, Afterlife has returned.
So it's a bit of a Ricky Gervais special this week's podcast, isn't it? With us watching Cemetery Junction.
I schedule content well. I'm just going to go through my personal history with Ricky Gervais, because after The Office and Extras, he came out with what was probably the first big podcast. And if it wasn't for that, there's a probably good chance we wouldn't be sat here recording a podcast now. Before, it was the most downloaded podcast in the world through The Guardian, and then he carried it on through a pay method with Audible, and I think that was probably opened a lot of doors into charging for podcasts. And after that, I listened to the podcasts back to back and repeatedly. I've probably listened to them 24 times each. They were my comfort podcasts for quite a while.
So have you gone back to them then? So it wasn't... Did you just listen to them a lot at the time, or have you gone back and listened to them?
Probably up until a few years ago, I would probably listen to them 3 or 4 times a year.
So a bit like watching... Like, I watched Death on the Nile, like you said, as a comfort blanket. You listen to them...
I could just have them in the background.
Okay.
Yeah. Until I think probably the level of podcasts have gone up. I've got other things to listen to now, but I do still occasionally listen to them every now and again. He did a few films. The Invention of Lying was all right. Have you seen it?
No.
It's very much, I'm Ricky Gervais and these are my thoughts on religion.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Which is something obviously very outspoken about. He did Cemetery Junction, of which I'm not going to say anything.
No.
And then he did Life's Too Short and Derek, which I could never, ever get into.
Wasn't there some controversy with Derek that he was portraying a character with a learning disability?
Yes.
And that in itself was a very controversial...
Yeah, it didn't sit with me well. And then Afterlife came out.
Okay.
And it came out last March, and I watched the first episode, and it wasn't for me.
Okay.
It was Ricky Gervais playing Tony. I will probably call him Andy because he's very similar to his character in Extras in this.
Okay, so a little bit lighter than The Office.
Yes.
David Brent.
Well, light,
more of an everyman.
Yeah. And he's grieving the loss of his wife, and that gives him an excuse to shout at people who annoy him, going through the world talking about what he hates.
Brilliant.
I left it because largely a lot of things that he was talking about, certainly in the first episode, were the same things that he was moaning about in his podcast 10 years, 15 years ago. And I'd listened to it too much, so I left it. When I heard there was a second series coming out, I thought it might be interesting, given our history. So I went back and watched it about a month ago. I watched all 6 episodes in 24 hours, which I never do.
Wow.
It spoke to me on whole new levels. One of the things I found hardest when we were going through our grief was when I had to explain to people who knew that we were expecting or that we had given birth but didn't know how it ultimately ended up. There were things where people would text me saying, "Oh, how's things?" Because it's easy to text to say, "Oh, look, we've given birth to 2 boys."
Yeah.
It's really tough to send that second text to say,
Yeah.
so things have changed.
Yes.
And that manifests itself in this show as his dad, who's played by David Bradley.
Oh, okay, yeah. The guy who we can never remember the name of.
Yes, I've written it down.
Oh, brilliant.
Who's suffering from Alzheimer's.
Oh.
So every day when he goes to visit, he asks, "Oh, how's Lisa?"
What an interesting device.
And it every single thing about that just rang true. There are scenes in the final episode of the first series where someone's really nice to him, and that was what really set me off when we were going through it. I was just in tears whenever I got a text message saying anything nice at all.
And we actually said to people, please don't be nice to us. There were times where I think I said to people very specifically, don't be nice to me, tell me awful things and moan about something. Just no niceness at all, please.
And when I was watching the end of the first series, you were getting ready upstairs, and while I was watching this, and I thought, if you come down now, you will think that my world has ended, because I was just in floods of tears. I wouldn't say it was triggering. It was nice that it was being represented on screen, and it really helped me, I think. It wasn't a total recommendation. Like I said, there was things that were repetitive of opinions that Ricky Gervais has been spouting for years.
Does it go into religion again?
Not so much religion. But yeah, there are anecdotes which Ricky Gervais complains about word for word in the podcast that come through in
he's
this.
Almost like he's
reusing your life experiences. It's just that he's got his down and I'm extremely familiar with them.
Yeah. Does he talk about animal rights? Because he does that a lot as well.
Not so much, no.
Did I know that there was... I think I saw a clip of this the other day, and there was the addition of a dog.
The dog's always been with him.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
right, because they were talking...
The
There's a clip that maybe you need to see, which is an outtake of him and the dog.
Oh,
maybe you shouldn't see
maybe
it.
I shouldn't
Maybe
see
that wouldn't be a good idea, but it was very sweet.
Ricky Gervais loves a C-bomb. And
Oh,
I
right.
found a C-bomb really funny.
You do.
If used correctly. I think in the trailer for season 1 there is very upfront a joke that involves a C-bomb, and it's probably the best joke in the season. He then goes on to use it 3 times in the same episode, in half an hour episode, and it's just like there's diminishing returns.
Yeah, it loses its power then as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing is there was a subplot which I wasn't comfortable with, but which led to one of the most unforgivable acts I've ever seen in a comedy, to the point where I'm still amazed they haven't shown any consequences to this.
Okay.
I won't go into it because it would be a spoiler.
Yeah.
But it
but
is.
It's something that's really... you can see it in your face.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that they did it, and then I certainly couldn't believe that it didn't end the show there because,
Or that anyone's talked about it, because I haven't heard of anything controversial with this one.
So we'll come to the second season, and I've seen the first 2 episodes of it. It might be because I've watched season 1 and season 2 in close proximity, but there appears to have been a quite unsubtle reset this season. Season 1 ended really positively. It was, it's not going to be a spoiler, but he starts to see on the bright side of life. He starts to make moves towards moving on in some ways.
Which I don't think is what I would have kind of guessed that.
But he's now gone back a little bit, and that is obviously how people are in real life. There are, they have good days and good days and bad days, and some days you can feel brilliant, and then the next day you can feel awful.
Yeah, and you don't know why.
Yeah, but as part of a narrative structure, it does feel quite jarring.
Okay.
It does commit the same sins as season 1. The language is the same. In the first episode, he meets a 100-year-old woman played by the lady from One Foot in the Grave.
Annette Crosby.
Yes.
Played Catherine of Aragon in the 1970s BBC TV series of Henry VIII and his 6 wives.
See, this is what I have to put up with.
It is, it's true, but at least I know who she is.
Who drops a nice swear word every now and again, but the positives remain the cast, and this has one of the best casts for a comedy I can remember.
Who's in it? Is there anyone I would know?
So,
without giving anything away, cameos or anything like that.
Yeah, the MVPs. And I'm not classing Ricky Gervais in this because Ricky Gervais's acting is fine. But the 2 MVPs are Kerry Godliman, who plays Lisa, his ex-wife. She's in Save Me at the minute. You see her through videos that Tony is watching. Every night he will revisit home movies, picture their wedding, just picture them living their life.
Yeah.
She sparkles every time she's on screen, sometimes in extremely difficult situations. And seeing her, you can see exactly why Tony is going through it.
Okay.
She plays the perfect foil for him.
Okay.
You could believe that they were a couple who were enjoying life together.
And then this thing came along and yeah.
But then, out of nowhere, comes a performance from Penelope Wilton.
Penelope Wilton. Now, we know why we know Penelope Wilton, don't we? Because we've had this discussion recently where we know her from our childhood.
Yes, The Borrowers.
She's a borrower.
Yeah.
The BBC production of The Borrowers with Ian Holm.
Yes.
And Penelope Wilton.
And Beverly Callard's daughter.
Yes, that's right.
So she plays someone who visits her husband in the grave next to Lisa's grave.
Okay.
And she plays very much someone that he can go to, he'll sit on a bench with and talk his inner thoughts to.
Yeah.
I best know Penelope Wilton, despite I don't really remember The Borrowers. Even though.
Oh, that's so sad.
But in Shaun of
Did
the
you just carry on with me? Going, oh, the borrower. Oh, yes, Elaine.
Yeah. In Shaun of the Dead, obviously she plays very retiring.
She's his mum.
Yeah, and she plays it.
She's quite tired, isn't
Yes,
she? And yeah, she's a bit sick of him.
She is an absolute revelation in this. Brilliant humour. She has some of the best lines in the entire show. She's the moral compass of the TV show. And it really makes me want to go back and buy a box set of Ever Decreasing Circles to see that.
In that?
Yeah.
I don't know Ever Decreasing Circles. I thought you were going to say you really wanted to buy the box set of Downton Abbey because she's in Downton Abbey. She's in all series of Downton Abbey.
Oh, I don't care about that. I want Ever Decreasing Circles.
Right, okay. Well, you made your point there very clearly.
We'll just wait till date night in 2 weeks when it's season 1 of Ever Decreasing.
Because you said, is this why you said the other night that you wanted to go into TV for date night? Is that because you want to slip in a bit of Ever Decreasing Circles?
That wasn't my thought, but yeah, no, you mentioned
now.
it. There is something else. This has affected me, and I can't recommend it for everyone because of all the flaws. But for me, I go on a roller coaster of emotions every episode of this.
Do you find it helpful, or is it? Do you sit there and think, why am I putting myself through this?
I don't find it unhelpful.
Okay.
I don't find it triggering. If that's the word, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I find it nice that things that I have felt are being shown on screen.
Right.
I think, so let's go into this. I think there was a time, and I justified at the time, but I think I was a bit of a dickhead to a cleaner in one of the hospitals.
Right.
She was trying to make conversation with us.
Yeah.
And I think she misjudged the conversation.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You weren't a dickhead to her, just to let you know.
Okay. So
you were not your usual jolly self, but she didn't know your usual jolly self. Anyone who knew you would think Mark's being a bit subdued there, but we were in an awful situation.
So it's the split. Look, so a cleaner came along and she was starting to have a conversation with us. I was not in the mood for chatting.
No.
And when a twin dies, they put a sticker on the crib of the surviving twin.
Yes.
It's called the Butterfly Project. It's a sticker with a butterfly and the name of the child who's passed away.
Yeah, it's a brilliant project.
It just helps people, and every doctor who walks up can see it on the crib. They understand exactly what you've been through. And it's just nice to know that it's part of the journey that Blake had. And
you don't have to explain it to everyone who comes up.
So, yeah, it was a Saturday. I remember it well.
Yeah.
I think she was probably weekend staff that hadn't been in. And she came across, she's like, it's nice outside, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How's he doing? I was like, yeah, it's doing okay, yeah.
Which, at the time, he probably wasn't.
Yeah, don't go away. What's his name? Looking at the sticker. What's his name? Henry? And I just turned around and said, no, Henry's his brother who died.
Yeah, but we were very factual. And that was the truth.
Yeah, but I knew that was going to get a reaction that would make her go away.
Yeah.
And of course, what we had was, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Yeah, just leave it. And I think I've thought about that woman probably every week since we've left the hospital. And I've thought, was I being a dickhead to her? And I think I think the fact that it's represented normalizes it, and it's okay to be upset.
Yes.
I wouldn't defend anything that Ricky Gervais does, because it's an exaggerated version of what I went through. Yeah, it's...
It was interesting to see that portrayed on screen, because you don't normally get those. You might get someone shouting and screaming and wailing, which we didn't do.
But
that
you don't
wasn't
have anything
representative.
so cerebral.
Yes. And those tiny, tiny moments, those moments that stay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting that was, and you're saying it's in extremis in his show.
Absolutely.
And things that you would never have done, but there was a tiny little bit that you said, oh yeah, that's...
Yeah, I can feel that, yeah.
Interesting.
I'd like to talk a bit about Better Call Saul, which finished its 5th season, just to have a massive...
I think that's really sorry, my face has just dropped, where I've gone, oh, do we have to talk about... I don't understand what you like about these shows. I realise they're on like the top 10 lists of the best shows ever with Breaking Bad, which I know this is like some kind of sequel to, but you watched Breaking Bad. Sorry, I'm kind of like sitting there waiting to speak. You watched Breaking Bad. I watched some episodes with you. I could not get into that whatsoever.
So I think the joy of these shows... So you are wrong about that. Objectively, you are wrong, because Breaking Bad is widely regarded as one of the greatest TV shows of our time
I hate
and
it
all
when
time.
you say that, because it's my opinion. My opinion isn't wrong.
But objectively, it is a great TV show.
Okay. Lots of people enjoy it. I do not.
Yeah. And I think the problem is you can't just go into one episode of it, because it is very much about the journey and seeing the characters develop. Obviously, Walter White starts as a school teacher and becomes a drug dealer.
Some sort of drug kingpin.
Yeah. And the big debate amongst Breaking Bad fans is, when did you lose sympathy with Walter White?
Okay.
And I think I lost it later than everyone else. I was still somewhat cheering for him in season 5, where he is, again, objectively, a terrible, terrible person. It's occurred to me now that I could do, for the next 60 weeks of date night, 2 episodes of Breaking Bad a week, or 3 episodes.
The podcast would stop. I would not be involved. You could do it yourself. You could just sit there talking to yourself.
Anyway, Better Call Saul tells the story of Saul Goodman, who was Walter White's lawyer, and very much comic relief in Breaking Bad.
As all lawyers should be.
And Mike Ehrmantraut, who's a retired policeman who's muscle for the drug empire. Saul Goodman, we learn in Breaking Bad, actually isn't called Saul Goodman. He's called Jimmy McGill, and Better Call Saul shows him becoming, from being a con man to being a lawyer to developing into Saul Goodman, the criminals solicitor. They add 2 more characters as main characters, who's Kim Wexler, who's a lawyer, starts off as Saul's love interest, and that develops through the series. And Nacho Varga, who is someone who works for the Mexican drug cartel but wants a different life. And those are the 4 pillars that we follow all the way through this. Other people come in and out, but they're the main 4. I think the problem is the first season wasn't what people expected. Saul Goodman is comic relief in Breaking Bad, and people were expecting almost a sitcom, I guess. Whereas this is far more of a legal drama. Maverick lawyers who play fast and loose with the rules at times. And mistakes were made, because there is a guest appearance of an iconic actor from season 1 of Breaking Bad in episode 1 of Better Call Saul, and it's too soon to put them in. It's on Netflix here, but it was on broadcast TV in America, and the first episode got 7 million people. Largely kept a lot of the audience from Breaking Bad.
Is that good?
Yeah,
I've lost track of what is good now and what isn't. So on a par with Breaking Bad, or
no, I think Breaking Bad was a slow burn. Breaking Bad started to know people and then finished up with some like 10-12 million.
Right, okay.
By the end of the first season, that dropped to like 2.5 million.
Oh, okay, right. I see the
difference. Think people sort of signed out from it. I stuck with it. It has become the best show on TV, bar none.
You keep saying this.
Yeah. It's become a thing to say, oh, actually, I like Better Call Saul more than Breaking Bad.
Is this like Godfather 1, Godfather 2?
I'd say it's more like, do you know what my favourite Christmas film is? It's Die Hard.
It's Die Hard?
Yeah. It's showing you've got like a bit of a extremist view.
And also you're really cine literate as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's become the done thing to say Better Call Saul is my favourite.
I don't think it's necessarily better because I don't think they're necessarily comparable. I enjoy it more. In season 5, they introduced a new big bad villain, and he is the kingpin of the local Mexican drug cartel. I think he is very much a smiling villain who acts as if he's above it all, and that can be a trope and a bit of a cliche. He absolutely nails it to be just the right mix of entertaining and terrifying. And I cannot believe that this late in the game they have brought in such a worthy big bad, because it needed to have this threat element that there never really was.
And which season is this?
This is season 5, the penultimate season.
Right.
This, I think, because it's a prequel, I think one of the issues is that you can worry about the stakes. We know that Saul Goodman is going to make it through to Breaking Bad. We know that Mike is going to break through to Breaking Bad. The way that they are manifesting this is that Kim and Nacho are two of the nicest characters that we know aren't in Breaking Bad. And so we need to know what's going to happen to them.
Right, okay.
Kim, as the show develops, she is in a very toxic relationship with Saul, to the point where you want to like just grab her and say, you need to get out of this. And you see her drifting further and further away from being a really successful partner lawyer into someone who is propping up the criminal world with Rhea Seehorn, who plays Kim Wexler. I'd never heard of her before this. If you look at her IMDb, she plays third or fourth billing on sort of a few network comedies.
Okay.
She is an absolute revelation. If she doesn't win the Emmy for Best Actress this year, it will be a travesty. And she will go on to win Oscars.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, there must be so many people out there who have seen Breaking Bad but haven't seen this, because I've only know a couple of people who are actually talking about this. Watch it. It is the best show on TV at the minute. And that's me done.
And I've only got a couple of sad things to say. Not sad in a sort of a...
Not sad as this podcast started.
Yeah, not like that at all, but I've had some terrible time with some of the shows that I've been watching recently, and I just wanted to come back and chat to you briefly about some of the shows that I've spoken about in earlier episodes where I was kind of full of beans, or even at some points maybe just sort of, I'm just going to see how it goes. I'm going to report back on those. Let's start with Devs. Devs. That was only last week where I said I was lying in bed watching the end of it. Wasn't watching the end of it because I was desperate to watch the end, but you know, I just thought I'd do it. And then episode 3 the next day, and had some interesting ideas, but I wasn't quite sold on it. Oh my, I've never watched a show that's made me feel quite so depressed.
Why?
I think it was just cold, meaningless nothingness, and it's the characters I did not care about. In fact, lots of them I just was like, you need to just sort yourself out. I kept going all the way through to episode 6 because I thought it might just get somewhere. And I'd listened to one of our other favourite podcasts, the Pilot TV podcast, and James Dyer and Boyd Hilton of that podcast had said wonderful things about it. And their other podcast host, Terry White, had not been convinced about it, and they were saying, Terry, give it another go, try it again, you will love it. And I thought, please let that happen to me. It might just, you know, it's Alex Garland, it's sci-fi, I should love this. But I just couldn't get behind it, and I stopped it at episode 6 just saying, I feel low watching this. It's just people in dark rooms talking very quietly, and there's nothing I've got here, not even the sci-fi element to get into. I then went and read the ending on Wikipedia and felt grateful that I had stopped it at that point. And then, of course, we have the crushing disappointment that is Westworld Season 3. I'm so sad. I'm so sad.
Do you know what makes me really sad? The fact that it's been renewed for another season.
I couldn't believe that when you showed me the gif of the 3 turning into a 4 and me realising that there was going to be another season, that I actively went, oh God, no. A couple of years ago, I would have begged for 4, 5, 6 series.
And a
I
movie.
would have been... Sorry?
And a movie.
No, I'm not sure about a movie. There's been a movie. It's got Yul Brynner in it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would have been all over it. I can't get into season 3 at all, and I've really been trying to look objectively at it, but I'm finding myself totally confused as to what's going on, and that's with us listening to really in-depth podcasts. Wonderful Joanna Robinson, David Chen, the guys from the Bold Move podcast that we listen to, who give these incredibly complicated, detailed descriptions of every episode. I am still utterly confused by what's going on. I don't care about any of the characters, the new characters and the old.
Well, I think they've proven that they can just, if someone dies, they can just recreate them. So there's no stakes anymore.
Yeah.
I'm literally only watching to see how they do a final twist in the season and gauge how much that is going to annoy me.
Yeah.
Because it will. It's just a case of how far up the scale.
I think there must be something going on because I don't understand it. So, well, I'm hoping there's something going on because I don't understand it. That's the better way of describing it. I hope there's going to be a huge twist or something is going to come to the fore where I go, that's why that scene and that scene don't make any sense. That's why I can't follow the plot. I'm not daft, but I can't follow the plot.
But good twists do that while still making the original thing entertaining.
So then you go, at the end, of course that was,
Yeah.
And
This would
have to go back and show me every single scene and say, okay, that's that, and then these other scenes mean this.
It still doesn't make it worth it in the long run. Even if they pull off the perfect twist, I'm still saying I'm probably not going to watch season 4.
I'll watch it because I love the show so much. I'm clinging on to the fact that it might come back round again. I can't not watch it. It means too much to me. I realise that's a really odd thing to say about a TV show, but it's such a part of my DNA now that I have to keep giving it another chance.
I think this is what happens to Kim in Better Call Saul.
Do you think I have a toxic relationship
with this
with Westworld?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about better relationships then. Let's turn to better relationships.
Well,
it's our special date night.
It is.
And it's your turn this week. It's Cemetery Junction.
Yep.
Like we say, it's a Ricky Gervais special. I know nothing about this film whatsoever. How long is it?
It's just over 90 minutes.
There we go. Perfect. Happy date night.
Happy date night.
There's this ancient Arab proverb that
Whoa. There's an ancient Arab proverb. Wow, you've changed.
says, listen, it's sweet. It says, throw your heart out in front of you and run ahead to catch it. Whatever you desire, imagine it's in front of you right now and just grab it.
What's wrong with you?
I'm a bit too old to be doing
Oh,
this.
Freddie, come on, it's what we do, isn't it? It's what we've always done.
Yeah, I know, but I've got a good job at work now. I don't want to lose it because I got caught drawing a pair of tits. That's what I want, sir. I don't want to end up like my dad. I've got 2 jobs.
Window cleaning, it's not a proper job.
How'd you make that?
Cleaning windows?
Yeah.
Almost like pigging.
I'm out every night, shagging, boozing, fighting.
Wakey. Is anyone, my love?
Yeah, all right.
Your dad still around?
Yeah.
Shame.
Do you ever think this town might have missed out on the swinging 60s?
What if the world's having a party and we're missing it because we're stuck here?
Free booze.
Free bags? Can I get the message? Bugger me. Bit rude.
I want to do something with my life.
You can't just come here and expect me to run away with you.
I think I might be in love with you. Just scared to leave.
I'm not scared.
You're in the same house you were born in. You're in the same room, I think. Same sheets.
Oi.
Cemetery Junction.
Michael Gibson's in this film.
Making his second appearance. Do you know he's from Hull?
I didn't even realise it was him until the credits rolled. And I grabbed after you, didn't I? I was like pointing, going, Michael Gibson. There was a guy. I mean, there was a lot of people in this film where I was going, who's that? Who's that? I know them. I've worked out one woman's from Call the Midwife partway through. I wasn't looking up the others. But there was one guy, and I was like, who is it? I know him. Just like a momentary appearance. And that's who he is.
Yeah.
He's the guy from Quiz.
I mean, I obviously never knew that until seeing it this time.
That's amazing, isn't it? We're going to see him in everything now.
Yeah, so you knew nothing about the cast of this?
Absolutely nothing.
Were you pleasantly surprised about the quality of cast?
Absolutely. You've got Ray Fiennes, you've got Matthew Good. I mean, I haven't seen a film with Matthew Good in that isn't good.
Okay.
Although I'm thinking now, is he in something like Leap Year or something like that?
He is in Leap Year, yeah.
I haven't seen that, so maybe that's the one that might change all of that.
I have. It's terrible.
Okay. Well, maybe I wouldn't watch it then. Emily Watson.
Emily Watson's brilliant in this.
Fantastic actor. And Felicity Jones.
This was the thing that launched it. The first time I saw her in things. Right. The year after this, she made Chalet Girl, which was very much a breakout performance for her. And then a couple of years later, she was Intimidation Game. Intimidation Game.
I haven't seen that one.
Imitation Game. I've had a couple of beers.
Yeah, I mean, the cast it's a wonderful cast, and there were a lot of character actors, like I say, who pop up that you don't anticipate being in there, and maybe only in scenes for 5 minutes, but they're very authentic. They're very 1970s.
Yes,
and that's what I really feel about this film. When I was sat thinking, what is it about this film that I like? And I love a period drama, but this really. It's a true realisation, it's an accurate portrayal of a small village in the 1970s.
Yes.
The minutiae of the detail in the houses in particular, I was looking at the background. It's probably a film that when you watch it over and over again, you can see more and more, but in the background you can see tubs, you can see pie dishes, absolutely true to the period. The clothing isn't over the top, so it's not like here we're in the 70s. It's very subtle, but it's absolutely true of a small place, and they don't really go outside of like 3 or 4 different locations within that village.
Yeah.
So you're going past the same streets all the time, as you would do if you grew up in that area. But it's absolutely true portrayal of, they're knocking on doors and there's hedges and bits of hay on the floor, and it looks real. Yeah. I mean, it is a real village. That was not a set.
No.
It must be real, and it must be somewhere that has kept its sort of picturesque look.
Yeah, it's clearly a county. If it's not, I don't know where it's filmed. If it's not Cemetery Junction itself, it's certainly a county village that, or market town, that certainly kept its charm. So
I can understand why this film resonates with you, because the themes of being young, not knowing really what to do with your life, thinking about making choices. Do you stay where you are? Do you take a leap of faith and go somewhere else?
Yeah, it's worth saying that I saw this, and I only realised this today, because coincidentally we're having this sort of conversation, and I saw this probably just as I'd accepted a job in Newcastle. And I know that Hull to Newcastle isn't as big a step as going to see the world, but it was huge for me at the time. I'd never actually visited Newcastle when I'd seen this. I'd just accepted a job to go there. So yeah, I think that's probably why this connected with me so much. But I'd stand by it. I love this film. I think
it's got a huge amount of heart in it, hasn't it?
It's very authentic. It's very simple.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting him to take off on a train at the end without Felicity Jones running.
It's got that very sort of almost rom-com ending, hasn't it, where the two leads eventually come together.
Yes. So let's start with the cast. So the main 3 guys. You've got Christian Cook playing Freddie Taylor, the lead. Got Tom Hughes playing Bruce Pearson, and Jack Doolan playing Snork. Yeah. Have you seen them in other things?
So the only one that I know really, I mean, I may have seen Christian Cook and is it Jack Doolan? The comedic element to the 3. The only one that I really know well is Tom Hughes. Do you know who Tom Hughes goes out with, who his partner is?
I don't.
It's one of your favourites. It's one of your favourite ladies.
Oh, who is it?
It's Jenna Coleman.
I did not know that.
They've been together, I think, for quite a long time. It might be sort of 4 or 5 years. They met on... It's probably called Victoria. I think it is called Victoria. On
yeah, because he plays Prince Albert.
He's Prince Albert. She's Victoria. They obviously work very closely there together. And yeah, they've been together since they've been making that show. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship, but you know, that's what my guess is. They met on that show and now they're together.
Oh, I hate him.
What a fabulous couple. I was just thinking when I was like, wow, he is superb in this.
He was, I mean, he was
think
a standout.
He's the lead.
Well,
you know, I know the other guy is Christian Cook, who plays Freddie. He's your lead through the film, so he takes you through the film. He wants to better himself. He wants to get a job outside of the factory life that most people in that place are. You know, they leave school, they go to the factory, and he thinks, well, actually, I'd quite like, although it's door to door, it's more like a desk job and an administrative job. But Tom Hughes, his performance, it's so nuanced. The hurt and the pain that he feels and the anger that he has, the resentment that is all bottled up inside. Just the facial expressions were just...
Yeah, interestingly, I'm going to show you the poster, and...
Wow, okay, so he's right at the front.
He is up front and centre.
Yeah, even though he is not the main character, he is meant to be the best friend of the guy that you are following.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about Jack Doolan, the sort of the comedy
Yeah, so
of the three?
he's been in a few things. Had a job role in Marcella. Is that what it's pronounced?
I don't know.
Anna Friel.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's been in... he was in the Hatton Gardens job.
Right.
He's been in a TV show called White Gold.
Okay, yeah, I know White Gold.
Has Ed Westwick and two of the guys from The In-Betweeners in. I think he's kind of a bit down the card from them, but he's certainly in it a bit as far as I know. I mean, I suspect he's making a decent living as a jobbing actor, but he's never really sort of broken through.
Yeah, he is a bit one-note comedy foil.
Yeah, I think probably the same with Christian Cook. He's...
What's happened with him? Because I don't remember seeing him in anything else, but he was very much styled as a 1970s guy here with the long hair, and maybe if he had shorter hair, looked a bit different. Yeah, different clothes.
So he was in the adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. The 2013...
With the film?
Yeah, the Haley Steinfeld, Douglas Booth
and Douglas
one.
Booth,
He was Mercutio in that.
He's a little bit Douglas Boothy, actually, when I was looking at him.
Yeah. He was in Love, Rosie,
right.
A rom-com with Sam Claflin and...
Oh, Sam Claflin, yeah, and he's in
Lily
that...
Collins.
He's in that realm as well of Sam Claflin, Douglas Booth.
Yeah, Electricity with Agnes Dean.
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if he was in something like The Riot Club or, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, Innocent... He's making a career for himself.
Yeah.
He's doing 2 or 3 things a year. I think he's probably doing all right out of it. But yeah, I think...
I mean, for me, halfway through I was thinking, he's very one note. I'm not really bothered about him. But he gets better as time goes on. And there's more to him. He gets more to do as time goes on as well in his interactions with other characters.
I think he's surrounded by quite awful people. Matthew Good and
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes.
Having a lovely time together.
Oh, yeah. A lot of smoking.
Yeah, a lot of drinking and a lot of being awful to women.
Yeah. You're not familiar with all that much Ricky Gervais stuff. Can you feel Gervais on it?
I mean, he's in it. So I felt very much Gervais when he was on the screen playing himself.
Yes.
He doesn't go outside of it at all. I'm talking about Tom Hughes being incredibly nuanced. You just pick up Ricky Gervais and you popped him in this film and that's it.
Yeah.
And he's got a few comedy old tattoos that are sort of a bit faded.
Anchors that are faded.
To try and make him into that character. He's not that character. He's not Freddie's dad. He is just Ricky Gervais saying Ricky Gervais things. I can sense the comedy in terms of the shock comedy. So there are a number of statements that... feel very 1970s in terms of people's views that we would now see as being complete aberrations. We would not take those things at all. We would absolutely be saying that is not appropriate and these things are not right to say and are not factually right. Stuff that we just wouldn't put up with in this day and age. And I think you're listening to racist, sexist, homophobic language.
Absolutely.
And it could come across in a way that's meant to get laughs. And it's not. It's very much, these people are idiots.
Every single person who's done that is shown to be an idiot.
Yes.
Yeah, and not a nice person. And the people who you are rooting for.
Yes.
Any standout scenes? Because there is a big musical number in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, that's where my mind has gone to. It feels slightly different from the rest of the film. I know...
That was the scene that stayed with me.
Right. I think they love their music, don't they? Because
yes.
This is absolutely full of 70s music, proper hits. It's the second time today that we have come across Saturday Night's All Right
for fighting in a film,
because earlier on today it was on Romeo and Juliet,
which we weren't watching. It was just on in the background.
And you said you thought it was produced by Elton John, and as if by magic,
then
the track came on. So second time we've heard a bit of Elton today. And he got mentioned quite a few times as well in this. So, it's an Elton day.
Yes.
I mean, that does spring to mind because it is a set piece. I think the sections that stayed with me the most as a woman are the scenes where men are making choices for women. I think that was something that really stayed with me.
I thought it might. When I was watching it, I was like, oh.
Yeah. But actually more because halfway through I was thinking, oh, this is... in inverted commas, a boys' film. This is a film for maybe even younger men who are about to make those life choices. It speaks to that part of your life.
Yes.
And I was thinking, there's not really much for women to do in this, but there is. The only woman who doesn't get much to do at all is Freddie's mum, who's Julia Davis, who I think is a bit wasted.
I'd agree.
She's just stuck on the kitchen table with a penny, and she doesn't say anything, she doesn't do anything, even when her son's leaving, to travel the world. She just sort of stands there.
Yeah, I suppose she was probably just fresh off Gavin and Stacey with this.
But that, just because she, as an actress, isn't doing, isn't starting in her career, doesn't mean that the main character's mother shouldn't have anything to say.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that she probably should have had more to do because she was coming off sort of the biggest hit of her career in that. It's kind of a thankless role. There's not a lot for her to do.
Anne Reid, I mean, you might as well take the mother out and
combine
Anne
the
Reid,
two.
Who is the grandmother? She is phenomenal in this. She is absolutely sparking, caustic wit. Reminds me a lot of women of that age who had a lot to say.
Yes.
And putting down the rest of the family members. So yes, I thought she was brilliant in it. Done up in makeup to make her look really old, actually. But yes, Felicity Jones gets plenty to do. I think she's a well-rounded character. She's not just the girl love interest. Her mother, played by Emily Watson, quiet role, subtle role, but really, really important. And I enjoyed the performances of the women.
I really fell for Felicity Jones in this.
Yeah,
I was kind of with her all the way through because Chalet Girl I even watched like crazy. That was probably the next thing on. It was a romantic comedy with Anton Yelchin, I think it is.
Yeah, because who very sadly died a few years ago.
Like crazy. And then from there, she was straight on to she was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and The Theory of Everything. Not The Imitation Game as previous, or The Intimidation Game. Same film. But
I thought it was very good-natured, had more to it than I anticipated. And things like the relationship between the copper and Tom Hughes' character, I thought was incredibly well written.
Yeah.
And not something I would have imagined would have been in a film like that.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't strictly remembered how that storyline played out, and it does sort of put your chest out, and I think that moment is a big turning thing. Yeah. I'm going to push you.
Yeah.
What's your rating?
So I was hovering around a 3 halfway through. Okay. I think the scenes with Tom Hughes, the policeman that we've talked about there, the way that the women in the film, things paid off for them. It wasn't just that they were in the kitchen, which a lot of 1970s period drama, that's essentially where they were. And because of the way that the period, it was so authentic. I can see you smiling. So it's this authenticity to the period. I'm going to give it a 4.
Best film we've seen so far, then.
Yeah, I think it is. I really think it is.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah. And I'm really pleased that you showed me it. It's probably not one I'm going to go back to a lot. It's not one I'd have on in the background because I think it deserves to sit and maybe come back to it at points in your life.
Yes.
Then it speaks to those points. It might be something that we show Blake later on in life, you know, when he's starting to think about making those sorts of decisions about, you know, do you stay in your hometown or do you leave?
When we're showing him out the door.
Yeah, when we're like, go, live your life.
Yeah. It's a few quid.
Gap year, off you go.
You can be in Paris in 5 hours.
Yeah.
I'll give you a lift to the airport.
4 stars for Cemetery Junction.
Lovely. So you have been teasing all week about what I'm going to end up watching.
Yeah. So I've got a long list of incredibly random, like they really are random. If anyone had a look at this list, they'd be thinking, what on earth is this? But I think I might be the person that comes up with these slightly bonkers films that we're going to watch. As I explained to you, I think it was this morning, I'm getting a little bit annoyed because every time I look for one of these films on a streaming service, and we have every streaming service going, every streaming, so it kind of annoys me a little bit that we have all these things, but then we kind of want to watch things off different ones. So there's part of me that thinks it's a huge waste of money, and another part of me that's like, but we need to see these things. I can't find half of the things on my list on a streaming service, probably because they're so weird, the choices that I'm making. No streaming service wants to show them because who would watch it? So I was thinking, I don't want to pay £3.50.
We've paid more than that for a can of beer that you got me a couple of weeks ago.
But you know what I'm like? I'll spend £100 on a dress, but I won't spend £3.50.
Pennywise, pound foolish.
Yeah, terrible. I'm terrible like that. So,
honey, we can spend £3.50.
Yes, and we will in the future. But I'm gonna spin date night on its head only because you have given me this wonderful gift, and I think that next week, rather than watching one of my choices, I'd like to do Knives Out.
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Because I think it would be a fantastic film to talk about. You've kept it a secret for, you know, however many months. I've not been spoiled on it. I really want to watch it. So if it's going to be a true date night, the date night I want is Knives Out. Would that be okay?
Do I still get to give you my rating on it?
Yeah. I wonder what it would be.
Yeah, you're not having 2 picks for this afterwards.
I know, and I know it's slightly different to what we said we would do, but because you've thrown a spanner in the works with your beautiful gift, which I'm really excited about because I've been able to hold a Blu-ray today and it just felt physical and, you know, like old school in your hand. Put it in the player. I'd like to watch Knives Out this week.
That's absolutely fine.
Talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. I'm more than delighted with that.
Great. Let's do that then. Right. Thanks everyone for listening to our very Ricky Gervais centric podcast this week.
We'll see you next week with Knives Out and whatever else we can find to watch.
And possibly no Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
See you later.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye. Before you go, just a reminder, you can follow us on facebook.com/thehoneymoonpod or twitter.com/thehoneymoonpod. From there, you should find all the links you need to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favourite podcatcher. But apparently not Google Podcasts yet. See you next week.